Next talk is about truly subcubic algorithms for language edit distance and RNA folding via fast bounded difference min plus product. I can read. Okay, and Carl is giving the talk.
Thanks for telling this long title for me. This is joint work with Fabrizio and Barna and Virginia. So let me go through the different parts of this title for you. So we are looking at bounded difference matrices, meaning that any two adjacent entries of your matrix differ by at most one. So if you start in some entry here and you go to the right or you go to the bottom, then your entry will change by plus minus one at most. And more generally, you can also look at W bounded difference matrices when this difference is bounded by W. But for the purpose of this talk, it will always be just one. Now we study the min plus matrix multiplication problem. So this is a matrix multiplication where you change the summation to minimum and the multiplication to plus, which means that the I, jth entry of the output will be the minimum over all k of aik plus akj. And now if, for example, A and B both correspond to adjacency matrix of a matrix, then this entry ij will be the shortest two-hop path length from vertex I to vertex j. So it's tightly connected to all pair shortest path. In particular, it's even known that the running time for min plus product and APSP differ by at most a constant factor. Now, a trivial algorithm, of course, computes this in cubic time, and the best known algorithm is due to Ryan-Williams, which saves a 2 to the root log n factor. The big open problem in that area is whether the min plus product can actually be solved in truly subcubic time into the 3 minus epsilon for some positive constant epsilon. Now, because this problem is very hard, people look at special cases of this, at structured matrices. So one of the very well-known examples is when both matrices have small entries, small in absolute value. So if both matrices A and B have integer entries between minus n and m, and maybe also some infinity entries, then the min plus product can be computed in m times n to the omega, where omega is the exponent of standard matrix multiplication. So we know that this is a number less than 3. And this is a very useful tool used in many algorithms, and also we will use this tool. And then there are other structured special cases that can be solved in truly subcubic time. For example, if the matrix A has in each row only a sufficiently small number of distinct entries. So, yeah. And then matrix B can be completely arbitrary, and you can still compute the min plus product in truly subcubic time. Now, this bounded differences is a natural special case of matrices. So we can ask the question whether min plus product for bounded difference matrices is actually in truly subcubic time. But, well, why do we care about exactly this special case? Well, we care because it comes up in many important applications, actually. So the first application is language edit distance. So let's first talk about the parsing problem. So we are given a context-free grammar G and a string S, and you want to know whether the string belongs to the language described by the grammar. That's context-free grammar parsing. And if, say, for simplicity, the size of the grammar is constant and the length of the string is n, then you can solve this problem in n to the omega time. That's a classic result by Valiant. Now, we are actually looking at a generalization of this problem called language edit distance, and you can view this as an error-correcting version of parsing. So again, you're given a context-free grammar G and a string S, and now you want to compute the edit distance from S to any string in the language. So the smallest number of insertion, deletion, substitution operations that transforms S into a parsable string. So you want to correct errors that the string S contains. Now there's a classic cubic time algorithm by dynamic programming from '72. So what is one of our contributions is that if the min plus product on bounded difference matrices is in n to the alpha time, then language edit distance can be solved in roughly the same running time. And this works roughly in the same way as Valiant's algorithm. The Valiant's algorithm for parsing reduces parsing to Boolean matrix multiplication. And now we have language edit distance, where we have integral distances, so edit distance costs. And then the same way you can transform language edit distance to min plus matrix multiplication. And it's subtle, but you can actually show that this will only produce min plus products where the input matrices have bounded differences. So what is the basic reason why bounded difference comes up here? Well, if you fix the grammar and you look at two strings, so one is some string s, and the other is s appended by one symbol c, then their language edit distance differs by at most 1. Because you can always start from s, first add the character c, and then use any sequence of edit operations for sc. Or the other way around, start from sc, first delete c, and then use any sequence of edit operations for s. So the language edit distance of these two strings differ by at most 1. And that's the basic reason why this comes up at all, and then you have to verify that this goes through Valiant's approach. Okay. Now the second major application is RNA folding. And so I have to add the disclaimer that I'm not a biologist. So for me, RNA folding is the following problem. An RNA sequence is a string over the 4-letter alphabet ACGU. And then biologists want to predict the secondary structure, meaning that some of these things can bond with each other. Namely, A and U can form a pair, and C and G can form a pair. And we want to determine the maximal set of pairs that match, but none of these pairs can intersect. So just look at the picture. So A and U, they can just match. U and A can match, and C and G can match. But now we have an intersecting pair here, so this is not allowed. But here, AU, UA, and CG, they all match. And any two pairs are either disjoint or nesting, so this is allowed. And we want to compute the maximum set of matching pairs like this. And then there's a classic cubic time algorithm. So Nusinov and Jacobson, who formulated this problem, they gave this cubic time algorithm. And this was the first formalization of RNA folding. So modern computational biologists who do RNA folding do very different things, but this is just the very first formulation of this problem. And then one can actually see that one can observe that RNA folding can be cast as a language edit distance problem, only that now you only allow insertions and deletions and no substitutions. And then again, by similar arguments, if you have a fast min plus bounded difference algorithm, then you also get a fast algorithm for RNA folding. Okay. So there is a huge interest in this special case of min plus matrix multiplication. It's very well motivated. So our main result is well motivated, I guess. That we can actually give a truly subcubic algorithm for the min plus product on bounded difference matrices, namely, for example, a randomized algorithm in time n to the 2.83. Now, let me quickly remark that so this number here, it depends on omega. We use fast matrix multiplication as a subroutine, but the functional dependence is very weird and hard to write down. So this is a weird exponent in some sense. We can actually de-randomize this statement also at the cost of slightly increasing this exponent. Let me write down one generalization for you. So bounded difference, I said, was that the adjacent entries always differ by 1. You can generalize this to W bounded difference, where W is something like n to the 0.6. And it even suffices if only matrix A has bounded difference, matrix B can be completely arbitrary, then you can still compute them in plus product in truly subcubic time. Okay? Then let me give you a few ideas of the algorithm. So we are given bounded differences matrices A, B now. We want to compute them in plus product. First step is to compute an approximation of the result, an additive, say, n to the 0.1 approximation. This is actually an easy step. So you just compute the correct answer for all indices ij that are divisible by n to the 0.1. So if this is the output matrix, you compute all the green entries, exactly compute the green entries. There are not too many, so you can do it in truly subcubic time. And then for each other entry, you round it to one of the closest green entries, and you just, for the D matrix, you just use this computed value. And because you can walk from here to here using only n to the 0.1 steps, and we have bounded differences, actually these two numbers so this number is close enough. And here we're really using the simple fact that if A and B have bounded difference, then also their min plus product has bounded differences. Okay, but so there are different ways of implementing this step, and yeah, this is just one possibility. Now, now consider a pair ij and consider some index k that minimizes aik plus bkj. So we have this equality. Then because D matrix approximates the C matrix, we also have the difference of aik plus bkj, and bij has to be small, sure. Now let's call these triples relevant. We can, of course, only look at relevant triples from now on. Because of this property here, if we only minimize over relevant triples, we get the same output matrix. Now, estimating the number of relevant triples is easy, because again, we can just look at all indices divisible by n to the 0.1. This defines blocks of submatrices. And for each submatrix, for each subblock, we can just look at one representative triple and check whether this is relevant, and then all other triples in this block will have the same property, because we have this slack of some constant factor in the definition of being relevant. So we can check how many relevant triples there are, and if there are few, we can also exhaustively enumerate them and just compute the output matrix. So the hard case is really if there are many relevant triples. So let's look at this hard case when there are many relevant triples. Then we fix two indices, I star and J star, and we look at these two very weird matrices. So we take matrices A and B and we transform them into matrices A star and B star. There are three terms here. They are all of the form as in this definition of being relevant, just for different indices, I J star, I star J star, and I star J. Now let's see that that it makes sense to use these matrices. So let's consider the min plus product of these two new matrices. That's just the minimum over all k of A star ik plus B star kj. So we just have to sum these two things up. Then many of these things just cancel out. So bkj star minus bkj star disappears. A star ik minus A star ik disappears. The only terms that are remaining and depend on k are those two. So we get the minimum over all k aik plus bkj. This is exactly what we want, right? This is the thing that we want, Cij. And then there are three more terms that do not depend on k, and they don't hurt us at all. We can just cancel them afterwards. So we see that we don't lose anything, because instead of computing the min plus product of A and B, we can just compute the min plus product of A star and B star, and both things are equivalent. We can reduce them to each other. Okay, so we didn't lose anything, but what did we gain? Well, these three things, they correspond to this relevant thing here. So if these three triples corresponding to these three terms, they are all relevant, then these three terms have small absolute value, meaning that these entries of the new matrix have small absolute value. And this was the first case that I told you that can be solved quickly. If all of the entries of the matrix have small absolute value, you can quickly compute the min plus product. Now, okay, so this reasoning only holds if all of these three things are relevant. We know that there are many relevant triples, but not all are relevant. So what do? We just throw away everything that is too large. So every entry that is larger than what we want here, we just set it to infinity, and then compute this min product and cancel out the junk terms and so on. Now, because we set to infinity everything that is too large, of course now we can quickly compute it. in time n to the omega times the largest entry, which is n to the 0.1. But of course, we lost things now because we set some entries to infinity. So, so we say that some relevant triple ikj is covered by this process if the two entries corresponding to that were not sent to infinity. If they were not sent to infinity, then actually the contribution of this triple is now reached the output matrix. It's included in the output. And then we do this kind of procedure just repeatedly for many random I stars and J stars. And this will cover most of the relevant triples, and in the end we still have to enumerate the remaining uncovered relevant triples. So this is a very vague overview, but more or less what I want to say to that. Let me just give you one idea of the core of the correctness argument of this. So here we want that these three things are all relevant. So when does it happen that these three things are all relevant? So let's consider this bipartite graph GK, which has a vertex for every I and a vertex for every j. And we put an edge between I and j if ikj is relevant. Now, what happens if these three things are also relevant? This means that these three edges here are all present. And in this case, we said that we cover this edge, so that's the good case. So this happens if so the random nodes I star and J star that we chose form a 4 cycle together with I and J. So what we need in order for this to be efficient, we need that this graph GK contains many 4 cycles. And what we have is that there are many relevant triples, because we said we are in this hard case when there are many relevant triples. And many relevant triples means that at least on average there are many edges in this graph. So really the core of the correctness argument is simply this graph theoretic result that a bipartite graph with many edges contains many 4 cycles. Okay. So I still do have a lot of time, I guess. So let me quickly go over this over one third application that we have. That's the optimal stack generation problem. So here you're given a string s, and over some finite alphabet sigma, and you want to generate this string using stack operations. So you start with an empty stack. You can push symbols on the stack. You can emit the topmost symbol, and you can pop elements of the stack. And you want to start with an empty stack and end with an empty stack and emit this string with the shortest number of operations. So for example, if the string is BAB, then I claim that this here is the shortest sequence that generates the string. Because if you start with an empty stack, then you push B on the stack, you emit the topmost symbol B, and you push A on the stack, you emit the topmost symbol A, and you pop the topmost symbol A, you emit the topmost symbol B, and pop again. So you started with an empty stack, you ended with an empty stack, and in total you emitted BAB. Now Tarjan gave a cubic time dynamic programming algorithm for this, and he conjectured that this can be solved faster. And we actually give the first truly subcubic algorithm for this, because as before, we show this connection that if min plus product on this time it's some constant difference, bounded difference matrices. If we can solve this in n time n to the alpha, then also optimal stack generation is roughly the same time. And so here again, what is the intuitive reason why there should be something with bounded differences? Well, if you consider the strings s and s appended by a symbol c, then their cost differs by at most 3 in this case. Because whenever you have a sequence generating s, you can append a sequence of length 3, namely push c, emit, and pop. Then you will generate s, and then write another symbol c. So the cost will go up by at most 3. And the other way around, if you have a sequence generating sc, you can just delete the emit operation that would generate c. So you get and even so you get a good sequence for string S. So again, there is something with bounded differences, and yeah. Okay. Now let me conclude. So we looked at this special case of min-plus multiplication where both matrices have bounded differences, and gave the first truly subcubic algorithm for that. And this gives truly subcubic algorithms for very nice applications, namely language edit distance, which is a classic parsing problem, and RNA folding, which is a classic bioinformatics problem, and an open problem by Tarjan, optimal stack generation. Now, we don't know yet what is the right exponent. We're quite certain that our result is not the right exponent because it's very weird. It's known that even for these applications, language edit distance and RNA folding, there are conditional lower bounds that show that they take at least n to the omega time, so the exponent should be at least omega. But the upper bound is this strange 2.83, and what is the right answer is first open problem. And then we think that there should be many more applications of this nice result. So thank you for your attention. Who's starting? It's so for omega. The question was what is the exponent if omega is equal to 2, and then it's still strange. It's n to the 2.76 or something. But you can always check whether it's bounded. Just check every 2 adjacent entries whether they differ by. Oh, that we didn't look at all. So yeah, I mean we need the permutation which gives the boundedness. It's polynomial, something like grammar size squared. Well, I guess we got the. I mean, using subtraction, we get this result. We don't know at all whether it's necessary to do that. Do we know anything about this? I don't know. I don't think so. There are results for approximation algorithms for this problem. For example, Barner had this nice result that 1 plus epsilon approximation for an RNA folding can be computed in n to the omega time. Also for language edit distance, yeah. Does it answer your question? We don't get anything better now. Thanks.